So here we go again. This is an example of the so-called liberal network still going after the pro-Palestine protesters, even though the NYPD was brought in, even though some people are calling for the National Guard to be brought in, even though there's been lies and smears and all sorts of nonsense thrown at these people. Joe Scarborough, the host of Morning Joe, is now going to scold his own viewers, too, over this topic. Let's listen, and then we'll break it down.
I've got to say, you'd ask what parents were saying about this. I mean, for parents whose children are, and they're children, by the way, there's some adults, but I say this because we've got kids, obviously, of college age. Obviously, there are many that are distressed. I'm sure many are concerned about their safety. I certainly hope the students got out and they're doing it peacefully right now. But Richard, this is, I tried to explain this a couple days ago. Maybe I wasn't eloquent enough. But I can tell you my family. I'm not saying the Vietnam War was a just war. It was not a just war. But I can tell you the riots on college campuses, the riots at the Chicago Convention in '68, all of those things moved my family from being Democrats their entire life to being Republicans.
That is such an admission. That is such an admission. Yes, Joe, we just talked about this the other day. We just talked about this. Do you know what the polling data was when you had peaceful sit-ins at all-white lunch counters in the South? You know what the numbers were? Only 27% of the country said, you know what, I agree with the protesters. Peaceful sit-ins at these all-white lunch counters, that's the way to go. 57% said, don't do that. Don't do that. We could go back and look at the same numbers for the anti-Iraq war protests, and the anti-Vietnam war protests, and the civil rights protest. There were cartoons being drawn of MLK when he was in the midst of his nonviolent, peaceful resistance movement. There was cartoons mocking him, basically trying to say, like, your shit is not nonviolent. Your shit is violent. There'd be buildings burning in the background and, cars exploded and a mess on the streets, and he would be saying, like, oh, yeah, this is nonviolence. So they were mocking him, basically being like, no, motherfucker, this is violence. Yes, Joe Scarborough, any kind of resistance to horrible crimes of the establishment, any kind of resistance is going to be a little disorderly. It's going to get a little ugly. But in retrospect, we have the ability to acknowledge, oh, wait, in every single example, these protesters were right. Who are we kidding? Who are we kidding? But him? He's doing his law and order shtick. This is like when Joe Biden came out and he said, you have the right to dissent, but not to be disorderly. Well, hold on now. So implied in that is what? Hey, they're not committing crimes. They're not committing crimes. If they were, he would use the line, you have the right to dissent, but not to commit crimes. They're not committing crimes. So now that bar moved to disorderly? Well, it was disorderly to sit at those lunch counters, wasn't it? It was disorderly to march across that bridge like they did in the civil rights movement, right? People can't drive across that bridge. When you're marching across that bridge, that's kind of disorderly, isn't it? It's disorderly to interrupt a speech of a war criminal, isn't it? No, sometimes disorder is correct. It is. And he's saying it made my family conservative Republicans now. Okay, well, what you're doing is admitting your family's own failures, that you weren't able to see it in real time. And by the way, he admits in this rant, I'm not saying the Vietnam War was just. Okay, there's another way of talking about this then. The protesters were 100% correct, and we were wrong to move away from the left because of those protesters. There's another way to say that. You could have said that. Spare me the sanctimonious rant if you're going to admit up front that the protesters were right. Spare me your sanctimonious rant. Don't need it. You already admitted the protesters were right. By extension, that means you and your family were wrong to move to the right.
From being Democrats their entire life to being Republicans. I remember I was young, and I remember my parents asking, what in the world is going on in this country? And of course, they were raised in the Great Depression in rural Georgia. Kind of hard for them to hear rich kids on campus of Harvard or taking over campuses at Columbia. But if you're offended by this, please, I'm trying to help you. I don't want Donald Trump to get elected, all right?
There you go.
Trying to help you. If you're too stupid to figure that out, you change to another channel. Because we're sorting through this as a country, and this is not helping. This is not helping the people of Gaza, and this is not helping those of us who want to fight fascism in America.
Oh, yeah, Joe. Let's fight fascism by doing fascism. That's your stance. I support these police cracking down violently on these nonviolent protesters, but I support that because I'm anti-fascist. So do the fascism in defense of anti-fascism. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? Man, this guy, holy shit.
This is not helping those of us who want to fight fascism in America. But Richard, you remember 68? It was a tidal wave. There's a reason that Reagan won with a lot of young voters in 1980. There's a reason the Reagan Revolution took place. The seeds were planted in 1968. And again, when I say that, I'm not saying that the Vietnam War wasn't an unjust war. It was. I'm saying there are ways, as the Rev has proven. So he proved in Vieques, as Martin Luther King has proven, as others have proven. There are ways to do this that helps the cause.
He's saying, why aren't you following like MLK's playbook? They are. They 100% are. And you have pushed every single smear against them and bought into the lies against them. Oh, some of the chants you're doing go too far. Those chants sure are mean. Intifada? From the river to the sea? Don't say that. You're saying you want to genocide all Jews. No, actually, we're not saying that. Yes, you are. You should be nonviolent like MLK. We are. We're actually doing a sit-in, which is one of their tactics. Well, that's not like MLK. And then his main point is, you're helping Trump. Stop. This is helping Trump. This is helping Trump. Stop. Well, Joe, there's an easy way out of this then. If you think this is helping Trump, and you would like to not help Trump, tell Joe Biden and tell the heads of these universities to just give in to the demands of the protesters. Their demands are not unreasonable. Their demands are divest from Israel. Makes perfect sense. Same way people divested from apartheid South Africa back in the day. And stop arming and funding the genocide. That's all. So if you are as scared of the outcome of these protests as you are saying, okay, go scream at Joe Biden and say, hey, man, you got to stop arming and funding this genocide. You got to condemn Israel at the UN. You got to maybe sanction them. Do something that shows these people, you know what? Yeah, it's gone too far. They've committed too many war crimes. They've killed too many kids. We're going to stop this. You would be screaming that at Joe Biden. Guys, everybody on TV has to be professionally stupid. It reminds me of the whole Houthi thing. How the Houthis were like seizing ships that were going to Israel. And everybody was acting professionally dumb. They were like, well, what should we do to deal with this? This is so crazy. All right, let's send weapons. Let's attack them. That's what they came to. Meanwhile, the Houthis were super upfront. Hey, if you guys stop carpet bombing Gaza, we'll stop this. That's all. Just stop. And by the way, when there was a brief pause in the fighting, they stopped what they were doing. Why? Because they're being serious when they say, you stop, we stop. And instead of just saying, okay, you know what, cut off the money and the weapons, let's stop Israel from doing this, what do? We allow Israel to keep doing it, we arm them, we fund them, and then we play stupid and say, I guess we got to go attack the Houthis too. I don't know how to get them to stop. I guess we should attack them. We get them to stop by stopping the genocide and the ethnic cleansing. Why is everybody so fucking dumb? But they would look at that as like appeasement. Oh, you're appeasing them. Is it really appeasement if when you stop that, then they stop? That's your goal, right? You want them to stop. Okay, well, if you stop killing Palestinians, they stop that. Where's the problem here? Where's the appeasement? That's just the correct way to handle the situation. Same in this conversation. You're so, oh my God, you're helping Trump and this is bad for Biden and the Democrats. Okay, stop the U.S. arming and funding the genocide and divest from Israel. That's it. Then they're done. By the way, some of the universities did take an approach like that. Some of the universities said, we're going to have a vote on whether or not to divest from Israel. And then when the vote comes back, overwhelming majority says divest from Israel. They go, okay, I guess we're divesting from Israel. Boom, done. I know Brown University was one. There was a few of them that acted in a very responsible and intelligent way. And it worked. No problems. In this instance, they're cheering on the cops. They're against the protesters. They won't talk about the violence from the Zionists at these rallies. And they're berating them. And I love how in the midst of this rant, he says multiple times, obviously, Vietnam was not a just war. Okay, that should be where your analysis ends. Obviously, Vietnam was not a just war. Obviously, what Israel's doing in Gaza is not just. It's not moral. It's just mind-numbingly evil. So, you know what the commentary should be? The protesters are right. Give in to their demands, and then we'll move on from there. We need this to stop. We need this to stop. It's helping Trump. Well, that's how you get it to stop. This is not how you get it to stop. Scolding his own audience. Calling them stupid. Joe, I wouldn't use that word if I were you. You're the one it applies to in this conversation. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.